What would you do if you lost your father at the age of 3? What if the world looked into your eyes and saw only a broken child? And what if that child grew up to change thousands of lives? This is not a movie. This is not a legend. This is the story of Michael Brooks. New York City. The year was 2000. The city never slept. Yellow taxis raced through crowded streets. Lights shone from windows high above the ground. People hurried from one place to another, chasing dreams they couldn't afford to lose. And on a cold December evening, in a small hospital in Manhattan, a baby boy opened his eyes for the very first time. His name was Michael Brooks. "Oh, my God, he's beautiful," his mother whispered through tears. Her name was Sarah Brooks. She was a kind-hearted elementary school teacher who believed that every child carried a piece of light inside them. Michael's father, James Brooks, stood beside her hospital bed, unable to stop smiling. James was a construction engineer. He was hard-working, honest, and known for helping anyone in need. As he held his son for the first time, he softly said, "Michael, one day, you'll do something great. I don't know what it is yet, but I know God has a plan for you." No one in that room knew how important those words would become. Years passed. Michael grew up in a modest apartment overlooking a busy New York street. He loved watching the snow fall against the window during winter. He loved pancakes on Sunday mornings. And more than anything, he loved listening to his father's stories. Every night, James would sit beside his bed and say, "Son, life isn't about how much money you make. It's about how many people smile because you existed." Michael didn't fully understand those words. After all, he was only a child. By the age of 2, Michael had become the center of his parents' world. There were family photographs everywhere. At the park. At the zoo. At Christmas. At his second birthday party. Sarah often laughed and said, "I think he's going to talk more than both of us combined." And she was right. Michael talked about everything. The clouds. The birds. The moon. Sometimes, he would point at the stars and ask, "Daddy, do the stars ever get lonely?" James would smile. "No, buddy. The stars are never alone. They always have each other." Michael would nod seriously, as if he had just learned one of life's greatest secrets. Life was simple. And beautiful. But life has a way of changing without asking for permission. One rainy evening in the spring of 2003, James kissed his wife goodbye before leaving for work. "See you tonight," he said. Sarah smiled. "Drive safely." Little Michael ran toward the door with his tiny shoes on the wrong feet. "Daddy! Daddy! Don't forget my dinosaur drawing." James laughed and took the crumpled piece of paper. "I would never forget it." It was the last thing Michael would ever give his father. Hours passed. The rain grew heavier. Thunder rolled across the city. By 6 o'clock, James hadn't returned home. By 7, Sarah began to worry. By 8, There was a knock at the door. She opened it slowly. Two police officers stood outside. And suddenly, the world stopped. "Oh, my God," Sarah whispered. Michael watched from the hallway, holding his stuffed bear. He didn't understand why his mother had fallen to her knees. He didn't understand why the officers looked so sad. He didn't understand why everyone suddenly started crying. James Brooks had been involved in a tragic accident on his way home. He was gone. He was 34 years old. That night, Michael sat beside the living room window. "Daddy's late," he said quietly. No one knew how to answer. The funeral took place 3 days later. It snowed that morning. People filled the church. Some cried openly. Others stood in silence. Michael wore a tiny black suit. He held his mother's hand as tightly as he could. "Mommy, why is everyone sad?" Sarah couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her face as she knelt beside him. "Daddy went to heaven, sweetheart." Michael frowned. "When is he coming back?" Silence. The kind of silence that changes a person forever. Sarah pulled him into her arms and cried harder than she had ever cried before. That night, Michael waited by the front door for nearly 2 hours. He believed his father had simply gotten lost. Every few minutes, he would ask, "Did Daddy find our house yet?" Days became weeks. Weeks became months. But James never came home. One evening, Sarah found Michael sitting on the floor with his father's work boots. "They still smell like him," he whispered. Sarah broke down in tears. "Oh, my God. How do you explain death to a 3-year-old? How do you tell a child that some goodbyes last forever?" Life became difficult after that. Sarah worked 2 jobs. During the day, she taught at school. At night, she worked at a small bookstore downtown. She barely slept. Yet every morning, she still made Michael breakfast. Every night, she still read him a bedtime story. Every single day. She chose love over exhaustion. One winter evening, Michael noticed the dark circles under his mother's eyes. "Mommy, are you tired?" She smiled. "A little. Then I'll be strong for both of us." Sarah turned away and quietly wiped away her tears. Children don't always understand pain. But somehow, they always recognize it. Years passed. Michael turned 4. Then 5. He learned to tie his shoes. He learned to ride a bicycle. He learned that birthdays could still feel empty. Every year, he left a small birthday card beside his father's photograph. The cards always said the same thing. "I miss you, Daddy." One night, during a power outage, Michael and Sarah sat together beside the window, watching the city lights disappear into darkness. "Mom?" Michael asked. "Yes? Do you think Daddy can still see us?" Sarah looked toward the sky. "Yes, sweetheart. I think he can." Michael smiled. "Then I hope he's proud of us." At that moment, Sarah realized something. Her little boy was growing up far too quickly. She pulled him close and whispered, "Listen to me, Michael. Life is going to be hard sometimes. People will disappoint you. There will be days when you want to give up." Michael listened carefully. "But promise me something." "What is it?" "Promise me you'll never stop believing that God has a plan for you." Michael nodded. "I promise." Neither of them knew that life was preparing to test that promise in ways they could never imagine. Because somewhere in the distance, another storm was already coming. And before Michael Brooks would celebrate another birthday, he would lose the only person he had left. To be continued in Part 2, The Boy Who Lost Everything.